Picture this. Someone asks you about your weekend and you start to tell them what a great job your kid did. They got 3 hits, they scored 10 points, they were the best kid on the field. But what you didn't realize was how those compliments were poison to their future self. And today we're gonna talk about what could be the most important thing we ever give our children. It's an identity. And I'll give you 6 signs that your kids are basing their identity on their performance and what kinds of things we can do that accidentally cause that. And then we're gonna talk about some ways to help our kids find their identity in a healthy way. I'm Coach Jim. Welcome to CoachDad.
Welcome to CoachDad, the show for dads, coaches, and sports families trying to lead better at home, in the stands, and on the field. Here's your host, Jim Miller.
Growing up, I was always trying to figure out who I was. I distinctly remember walking through the halls at school and looking at the other kids around me and wanting them to think that I was someone important or special. My sophomore year in high school, I made the varsity baseball team, and I thought that I had arrived. I was sure that everyone around me was going to start talking about me and they would respect and admire me. Finally, right? Now, it's the same story in every life. We're all trying to figure out who we are and who the people around us are. And society is great at giving us a label, but those labels can be pretty tough. You've probably worn some of those labels before, like fat, a waste of space, skinny, unpopular, super popular, right? Awkward or weird, a failure. And we've all seen it before, and we've all been there before. You seen this before? Your kid has a great game. Everything feels good. Your kid gets the hits. They score the points. They make the plays on the field, and everything's great. The other coaches said his thing about your daughter. The other parents are smiling and patting her on the back. The ride home is a party. But then there are other days. Maybe it was a strikeout or a botched play, or they sit the bench, or worse, they make a mistake that costs the team dearly, and now the whole world feels different. And that's when we have to ask, is this just a kid learning how to handle failure, or is this a kid trying to define themselves by how they play the game? Because those are not the same thing. So dads, what we may not have realized is that true identity is not something that we really, honestly, we make for ourselves. It is something that's given to us by our family, by our community, but mostly it's given to us by God. It's the name that we call ourselves in our thoughts. And sometimes it's pretty harsh. Things like worthless or idiot or stupid or ugly or failure, right? But other times it could be precarious. Be the star athlete, smartest kid in the class, a great hitter. And that second category could be trouble if they have to be able to perform in a certain way to live up to the billing. Now, when identity is secure, kids compete with freedom. And dads, your voice matters. Your voice matters. Your kids may hear coaches and teammates and fans and social media and critics, but your voice as a father is powerful. Use it to mold your kids. So here's something practical. I want you to start saying identity statements to your kid. No, not weird and forced. Caveat there, right? Just steady. Rewrite their sense of values by shining a light on the things that you want them to know and do. Say things like this. Here's a few examples, okay? You are loved before you compete. God loves you, and so do I. You are not your last game. God gave you gifts, but your gifts are not your God. I love the person you are becoming more than the player that you are becoming. Your value does not rise and fall with your stats. I love watching you play, but I love being your dad more. Or, I saw you hustle and that made me smile. You were the first person off the bench to high-five that kid that made a great play. I saw that you kept playing your hardest even when the game was out of reach. And what you may not realize is that true identity is not something that we make for ourselves. It is something that is given to us by our family. So how do we know when things have started to go sideways? So glad you asked. So here are 6 signs that things have started to go the wrong way. Number 1, your kid's mood depends on how they played. Now, this is different from having a bad game and being sad because they struck out. This isn't so much about learning to deal with failure. It's something more and deeper than that. So number 2, if they're injured or if they can't play for some reason, they feel like they're not themselves. Number 3, if your kids are constantly in a mode of comparing themselves to the kids around them, then there might be a problem. Number 4, if your kids are afraid of making mistakes because they are scared to disappoint you, there may be an issue. And you can tie in with that at a certain age, our kids shouldn't be looking in the stands at us between plays over and over again, right? They should just focus on the game and on their coaches. And they shouldn't look at us between pitches or as they're running down the court or after every play, while the teams are in the huddle and coming out of the huddle, they look up in the stands, and that's a problem, right? Number 5, if life outside of sports seems less important than what happens on the field, then take a step back and re-examine those priorities. And then number 6, and this kind of relates in some ways, but if conversations around sports center on performance, then that could be a potential issue. So if you're only talking about their games and talking about how many points they scored or whether they did a good job, of catching the ball or, any of those kinds of things, if it's only performance related, then that's an issue, right? So now here's the deal. Here's the parent's role. And dads, this is where we have to be honest. When we talk about the success on the field, what are the things that we praise? When you define success for your kids, are you talking about batting average or about hustle? Are you talking about points scored or the time they helped another player up? Are we talking about passing yards or about servant leadership? Most of the time, we talk about stats before character and playing time before humility. And that's a problem because the thing that we celebrate most teaches our kids what we value the most. And that doesn't mean that we can't celebrate the big moments, the big game. We should enjoy them, cherish them, cheer and be proud. But make sure that your child knows that you see more than the stat line. Hey, if this hits home, please do me a favor. Drop a comment with one character trait that you want your child to know matters more than their stats. And subscribe to CoachDad for practical encouragement for dads, coaches, and sports parents. Thanks, we'll see you next time. And remember, it starts at home. Do me a favor and drop a comment with one character trait that you want your child to know matters more than the camera spinning around.
Thanks for listening to Coach Dad, where it starts at home.